Hello, a first-class mind. When he first got on the crowded train, he'd bury his head in a book and read. Large numbers of people always made him uneasy, but the mass exodus at Sevenoaks and Tunbridge would disturb his concentration, and he would merely sit and watch his few remaining fellow passengers through High Brooms and Tunbridge Wells, where the stops were only minutes apart. By the time they were past, the vast majority had left the train, and he was left, his book forgotten, heading for the south coast in an empty, or almost empty, carriage. A good mind, underemployed, starts seeking entertainment, and one night, unwilling to return to his book, he'd picked up one of the discarded free newspapers which littered the carriage. The lack of any real news and the preponderance of the ridiculous opinions quickly prevented him from reading the text beyond a quick skim and a superficial ogle at the latest bootylicious, barely covered pop star bum. He soon got bored of that, and then he discovered the puzzle page. Being of a mathematical bent, he inclined towards the number puzzles and quickly found the Sudoku. He soon discovered some basic principles and found those offered ludicrously easy. A lucky find one night had him trawling the train for the occasional bought and discarded quality paper, or the Times or Telegraph or Daily Mail, for the more difficult versions they contained. However, the frequency with which he was able to locate anything but the free papers, combined with the fact that those who bought their papers were much more inclined to complete the Sudoku, soon caused him to consider other options. He tried completing them in the minimum time, accepting decisions without questioning, and not stopping to check the individual lines or squares when all 9 numbers were complete. Initially he made errors, but soon learned to act without hesitation. He was confident in his own decision-making. His confidence in his own decision-making increased. A useful outcome, he decided. But now he could complete the puzzle in a fraction of the projected time given by the paper, and was left idle again. He felt there was little point in pursuing this particular line any further. Next, he sought to increase the difficulty of what was on offer by imposing extra rules on himself. For example, filling in the numbers in order, first of all the 1s, then all the 2s, all the 3s, and so on. Variations soon followed. A 9 followed by a 1, followed by a 9, and then another 1, until all the 9s and 1s were filled, and then move on to 8s and 2s. Or he would start with 5s and move up and down the scale away from the centre. Sometimes it was easy, he simply ran through. Others he found himself memorising almost the entire grid to get his last one before he could move on to the next number. The trouble was, having done so, he then knew all the rest with hardly a thought. He tried spatial variations, filling all the numbers in the top right-hand square and working across the top, followed by those in the bottom left and across, and finally those in the centre. After working by squares, he tried working by lines, sometimes up and down, sometimes left to right, sometimes diagonally, but it was not what the puzzle was designed for, and the results were too erratic to be satisfying. Sometimes simple, sometimes mind-bendingly difficult. He ran out of patience before he ran out of variations, and learned to return to his book when his fellow passengers had left the train. He was back working on the coast. The unwelcome long trips to London, if not forgotten, put out well into the back of his mind. It was a slack lunchtime. The receptionist was doing the Sudoku in the Telegraph when he walked up behind him. His mind clicked into gear as he saw the familiar grids. As he solved, a mischievous idea entered his head. "That one's a 7, he said, fully aware that there were no other 7s on the board, or would be for some time to come. The receptionist was left wondering well after he'd solved the puzzle. By the time the trick had been repeated 2 or 3 times, he started to talk about it. No harm in getting a reputation as different when it gets you a bit of respect. Thank you.